Welcome to Rockstar Doctor Life. I'm Melissa Longo. As a chiropractor, I believe we have the profound ability to impact our communities and people's health on a global level, while also enjoying rich and rewarding personal lives and giving attention to the things that matter to us. Each week, you'll hear an inspiring conversation to give you ideas and insights to rock your practice, pursue your passions, find more connection and meaning in your life, and create a life and business that works for you. Okay, Rockstar listeners, I'm thrilled to introduce you to a fabulous woman who is doing some great things in her home life with her daughter and her husband, as well as in her community as a chiropractor. She's also doing some really great things to help bridge the relationship between chiropractors and their medical providers. So we're going to have a nice, juicy conversation here today with Dr. Nicole Lindsay. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Melissa. I really appreciate it.
I've enjoyed our pre-chat immensely, so I'm looking forward to digging in and getting to know you a little bit better and helping our listeners understand some of the things that you're doing. But best place to always start is if you could just give us a snapshot of what you're doing these days and who is Nicole Lindsay?
Yes, awesome. So I am a life grad. I graduated 17 years ago, hard to believe, and I'm practicing full-time practice in Asheville, North Carolina, in the beautiful mountains of Western North Carolina. I have a 13-year-old, well, she'll be 13 in a month, and I'm married, and I am running another business, my side gig, coaching chiros on MD Marketing, and trying to fit exercise in between all of that.
You got a lot going on, as most of us do, but have you always been in private practice, or did you have any other practice experiences?
I started off as an associate right out of school, and I bought the practice that I was in after about a year and a half, and I've been here ever since.
Nice. And I love what you shared with me in our pre-chat about how you ended up in North Carolina as far as traveling there and just loving the area and saying this is when I want to build my life here. I think a lot of docs need to focus on creating a lifestyle, right? This is a lifestyle show, like creating a lifestyle that you want and then serving the communities where you are. Do you want to share a little bit more about your adventures in North Carolina and how you ended up there?
Yeah. Of course, I went to Life. So on breaks, we would come whitewater rafting. And we'd come down the Nantahala. We'd stay in Boone, North Carolina. If you've ever been, it's just gorgeous. The Blue Ridge Mountains are beautiful. And the rafting is great, the hiking, the mountain biking, all of it. And I thought, after my first time rafting down that river, I need to live here. Even if it's as an associate just for a year or two, I need to do that. And so that's what I did when I graduated. I didn't know a soul here. I just knew I needed to live here. So there was actually an associate position available in this very area, which is kind of weird. So when I graduated, I applied to a few others, but I did get this job, obviously, took it, and it's been awesome. And like you said, being around nature, for me, it inspires me. It gets my creative juices flowing, and it's really important for me to be able to do that, to have access to that almost on a daily basis.
So do you have certain times of your day where you integrate some outdoor activities, or is it just, hobbies that you have on the weekend, or how do you integrate, what you love, being outdoors, with your business life and your mom life?
So my office hours are really weird, and I do that so that every day, just about every day, there's only one day of the week, which is Monday, that I do not have time to access the outdoors. And that would be Monday. I work from 7 a.m. until 4 p.m. with a 2-hour lunch. But every other day, I only work a half a shift. And I specifically do that so that I can get outdoors. I love to mountain bike or hike or trail run with my dogs. So I need 2-3 hours to be able to do that, and then be able to work the other half of the day. So that's exactly what I've set up for myself.
So talk about creating the lifestyle that you want for yourself. I mean, that's amazing. Now, you took over, you've been in practice for 17 years. Your daughter is almost 13. So you obviously had some time in practice before you became a mom. How did things change when your daughter was born?
Oh, man. It changed even before she came, because I was put on bed rest at week 21 of my pregnancy, and it was kind of unexpected. I was in preterm labor, didn't even know. I went in for routine ultrasound to see what sex the baby was, and found out that I was in labor. and I was immediately put on bed rest. They stopped the labor, and the OBGYN said, you're on bed rest from now until the time you have your baby. And that was like a Wednesday. And I said to her, what do you mean? I got to go to work tomorrow. And she said, not if you want to have this baby. And I had to close the office the next 2 days. I had been interviewing for an associate, but I didn't have one picked out yet. So I ended up interviewing from my couch for the next 3-4 days and hired one on Sunday of that week. And she took over and kept my practice going for me until I had the baby. So life changed drastically for me when I got pregnant. And then even after I had her, it did.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, you think you're just going to go in for a checkup, and next thing you go, no, you've got to completely step out of practice. And for someone who's as active as it sounds that like you are, that must have been completely, not devastating. That's too strong a word, but I mean, it must have completely overhauled your lifestyle. How did you deal with that at that time?
It was devastating. I mean, to be honest, I really felt like God was trying to tell me something, and I needed to listen because I was running myself into the ground. I was going 120 miles per hour, and I built a really, really rockin' practice. Things were going great, but there's no way that I would have been able to continue at that level. And I think that was just, for me, I always have to hit a wall to get it. There's been many instances in my life where I almost, I have to face plant in order to get the big idea. And that was the situation here. So I nestled in. I taught myself how to knit. I didn't look at baby anything because I didn't know if the baby was going to make it, because this kept happening. I actually went into preterm labor another 4 times, had to go back to the hospital. And so I just never knew if she was going to make it or not. And it was hard, being on bed rest. Mm-hmm. But I made it.
In all those times, I mean, it sounds like you have a strong faith. It sounds like that, obviously did emotionally challenge you dramatically. I'm sure you've had other times now that you're a mom with an almost teenager and running a business and also having, a side business where you're helping other chiros with their marketing with other MDs. How do you typically respond to challenges? I mean, do you have a mantra? Do you have a person that you talk to? Do you have a ritual that helps you deal with shit when it comes your way?
I think for me, we were kind of talking about this in our pre-chat too. We should have recorded that. That was really good.
That's usually the case.
A lot of good stuff happened there. I just put my head down and I do what I have to do, and that's kind of my mantra. I got to do what I got to do, and I just get through it. And I also truly believe that everything happens for a reason. And there has to be a lesson that I need to learn in this situation. So I'm going to get through it. Hopefully I'll figure out that lesson along the way. If not, I know that lesson will be there at the end. And eventually I'll know why I had to do this. But everything, I believe, happens for a reason.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you've had your share of interactions with people in your practice, like we all do, people who come into our practices and maybe want to tell us how things are going to go down, or people that come in and challenge our recommendations or simply just don't follow them. Do you have situations like that you can share with docs? Because I know that it's a common question that I get from listeners.
Yeah. The way I handle that is I always give a recommendation. I give them my best, what I call my best recommendation. I've been doing this for years. This is what I feel you need. And if they don't want to do that, if they don't agree with it, they don't have the time, they don't have the money, then I say, well, here's the deal. This is what it's going to take to correct it. If you don't want to fully correct it, then we can certainly do this acute care. And that would consist of this. And basically, it doesn't mean that you're not going to get good results. You can still get good results. It's just not as intense. And I'll show you what you need to do on your own. And if they don't want to do that for whatever reason, I don't turn them away. We talked about this earlier too. I find out where they're at. What do they need? What are they feeling that they want to do? What can they contribute time-wise? What can they contribute money-wise? And then maybe we can figure out a care plan that works for you. So I work with them.
So it's basically looking at their own values and their own needs and really connecting with them. I think that's sometimes something that can get lost in practices, where we have our own agenda of how we want to, inspire people to live these incredibly awesome lives with chiropractic as a center of everything they're doing. And, I think depending on our practices, the majority of people will understand that if we do our job. But every once in a while, there's someone that gets in and our message doesn't resonate with them. And I know that a lot of chiros, take it to heart, and and I've been there too, where you feel frustrated or you feel disappointed and you beat yourself up about, what did I miss? What did I do wrong? And sometimes people are just not ready to hear the messages that we have, or they're just not a priority for them.
That's so true. I was talking with Ashley Ochner last night from Go Get Talks, and we were talking about doing a health talk and how he said chiropractors tend to get really mad if a patient doesn't sign up for care. And it's either all or none. And why are we like that? And it's very interesting. It's kind of this same discussion that we're having now. If a patient doesn't want what you have, whether you're at a health talk or in your office, it's okay. It's okay that they're not ready to be taken down this path 110% like us overzealous chiropractors,
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. Just be sincere and let them know what you truly feel is best for them. But if they still don't want it, it's okay.
Yeah, and I don't think there should be any question about, for docs who run their practices like that, and everyone, can run their practice however they see fit. Ideally, my recommendation is always do what's right for you. Get really clear on what your values are. Get really clear on your skill set. Get really certain on what chiropractic will deliver, whatever kind of practice it is, whether it's a sports care, whether it's a wellness practice. Share your message fully and from your heart, and then trust that the right people are going to find you and that the right message is going to be heard. But for some people, when they draw a really, really firm line, it can turn people off. And that's what frustrates me and concerns me sometimes in our profession, is that then I get people, sometimes who come into my practice who had a really bad experience with a chiropractor, and it breaks my heart because, I know and so many of you listening know that chiropractic can really change people's lives. It can save their lives. But if we turn them off by having some really hard and fast rules or treat them ways that we wouldn't want to be treated, then that doesn't always leave a warm taste in their mouth to want to give it another shot.
Right. Yeah. And, I have to admit, I did that a lot when I first started practicing. I was with one of these coaching companies that taught us to do that it's either our way or the highway. And so I did a lot of that when I first started practicing. And I know that I pissed a lot of people off and turned them away from chiropractic. And thank God that I figured out over the years that it didn't feel good to me. It didn't feel right. I didn't like the way. I didn't like that, just didn't feel good. And so, yeah, but I do admit that I did a lot of that in the beginning.
Yeah, and I can remember vividly having an experience, it was probably about 5-6 years into practice, where I was following, protocol and scripts based in a coaching group that I had been part of at that time. And I remember sitting there, and I can still even picture the guy who I was speaking to, and I can even recreate the feeling inside me that was it was such a disconnect with how I really wanted to communicate to this person, what I really wanted to say. And I think that was a really pivotal moment for me to realize this is not how I want to run my practice. And, unfortunately, we have to learn the hard way, after years in practice, that, the kind of practice that you do want and how you want to grow it and lead it. So, docs, if you're new grads and you're listening, I guess that's probably one of our biggest pieces of advice right now, is really find yourself the right people that really resonate with you and how you can grow your practice.
Absolutely. And listen to that voice within you. So, and I do that now. Like if I'm saying something and it's part of my script, and it doesn't feel right to me, I listen to that and I exit out. I don't say it anymore. You know what I mean? It has to feel right to me in order for it to go down.
So just, we've talked about how your life changed dramatically, not just when you became a mom, before you became a mom in your pregnancies. When your daughter arrived, thankfully everything was great, right? How did you transition your practice? You still had the locum with you for a period of time? I'm asking because, there's so many families out there, men and women who are adding children to their families and trying to figure out, how do I make both parts of my life fit? How do I be present for my kids as well as grow a business and serve my community?
Yeah, so that forced me, that bed rest forced me into learning how to hire an associate and how to run my business without me being there. And I did it. I ended up keeping that associate. So she was hired as an associate and I kept her for 2 years. And I've had an associate ever since. So I've been practicing 17 years. So I keep associates all the time. Now I've had periods where I've been in between associates, maybe, 6 months here, 2 months there. Most of my associates have gone on and, opened up their own practices. But that's, for me, that's what I need so that I can continue to take off from time to time. I can leave early if I need to. I cannot be so exhausted when I get out of the office that I have energy and time and love and attention to give to my daughter and my husband. So that's probably what I would suggest doing if you're like me, if you're the breadwinner, if you're the female chiropractor, and you're looking at having children and growing your family, you don't have to give up your practice. Just hire associates and learn how to manage them, train them, and you can still run your business with them helping you.
It sounds like such a simple thing, yet I know that so many docs struggle with finding associates and finding the right fits, and so many associates struggle in those relationships too. Do you have any tips on, as a doc, finding a great fit, finding a great associate, or do you think you've just been exceptionally lucky?
Well, again, I've learned over the years. It's like I'm actually going to speak at Life University, and I was creating my presentation for the students. And part of what I'm going to say to them is I've learned over the years what not to do, and I'm going to teach you all of that so that you don't have to make these same mistakes. But I think what I've learned in hiring associates is, figure out how much you want to be in the office and what your role is going to be in the office. So, for example, for me, I still want to be there. I don't want to just hire an associate and then take off and never show up in my office again. I want to be there, but I don't want to be doing the majority of the adjusting. I want to do new patient consultations. I want to do the reports. I want to do some adjusting. I want to manage the business, train the employees, do the staff trainings. I'm really good at managing, leading, inspiring, that sort of thing. And I'm really good at day 1, day 2, that thing. So I need an associate that's really good at the clinical aspect of being a chiropractor and somebody that's okay just handling the adjustments. So I would say know your role before you put your ad out, before you start interviewing, so that you can tell the associate, this is what you're going to be doing in the office. If you just want to hire an associate to grow your chiropractic office, it's not going to work. It doesn't work. That's why so many people fail at it. They just have that doesn't work. But if you want to hire an associate to come in and help you so that you can have more freedom, so you can have more family time, then there's ways to do that. So know what your role is and what you want the associate to do.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a great tip. Now, on the flip side, what would you say to people looking for associates as far as how they could determine whether an office they're particularly applying to work with might be a good fit for them? If I were to put you on the other shoe.
If I were an associate, I would, am I a new grad coming out of school and I really want to work on my clinical skills, that would be a great opportunity for you to just find a chiro that is looking for help with the clinical aspect of the office so that you don't have to get so stressed out about the marketing. You don't have pressure on you for learning how to bring new patients in. So that's another thing I handle in my office is all the marketing, because I love the marketing. Mm-hmm. So my associates, they don't have to bring a person in at all. I handle that. Mm-hmm. So if you're an associate and you're thinking, I don't want to do the marketing, look for that. Look for that in the associate ad or the interview.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Now, speaking of marketing, you have a company, which we've talked about it in subtle ways here, Dominate, Chiropractic Marketing, and you help docs understand and improve their relationships with medical doctors. Is that right?
That's correct.
How did you first come up with this concept? And I guess I'm assuming that you tested it on yourself first, and you built your programs based on, again, your trial and error and your own experiences.
Yes, exactly. It was after a couple years in practice, the old .com bubble hit, and it was a trying time to be in practice. People were dropping out of care, marketing events were not to be had, and it was just a scary time for me. And I started really thinking, where are our patients? What brings a new patient into a chiropractic office? And the answer was always pain, 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 pain. Yes, there are some wellness patients that come in, but for the most part, there's some kind of problem that they have first. And I thought a couple steps farther, where are they going first? Most of the time, they're going to their MD. So if I could educate the MD and teach the MD that I'm an option, then I could drive some of that traffic, those referrals into my office. And it wouldn't cost that much money. I wouldn't have to, worry about where new patients were coming from all the time. And so that's what I did. I started educating the MDs in my community about how I could be a resource for them. And it happened. And ever since I developed these relationships with healthcare providers in my area, and have been benefiting from those referral sources ever since.
Mm-hmm. So you obviously think there's some mistakes that people make when they're trying to build these relationships. Could you give us one little tidbit? I mean, obviously, docs listening, if you are interested in what Nicole is sharing, there's links to her profile and to her products and all the great stuff that she's doing, so you can learn more and dig deeper into this concept in the show notes. But if you were to give us a few teasers here, Nicole, like what is one thing not to do? And then maybe you can give us one thing that has been really helpful. How about a do and a don't?
Yes. I think that, and I get clients all the time that call me and say, I've been marketing to MDs and they don't refer, and I dig a little deeper. And one of the main issues I find is that we go into this relationship with a, what am I going to get out of it attitude. I want referrals. Send me referrals is how the chiropractor approaches the MD. Instead of the do would be meet the MD and show the MD how you can help the MD with those patients that they're not getting results with. So you have to give to get. Mm-hmm. And that's, I think, a key part to this process.
It's like, how can I help you? How can I help you versus here's what I have to offer.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So that, and also using their language. If we go into the MD's office, and I teach 4 strategies. I teach setting up MD Lunch and Learn, so going in there and educating the MD and his staff and the PAs and all the healthcare providers what we do. A meet and greet, a 10-minute meet and greet, doing it low key, just 10 minutes, calling the MD and setting that up, sending notes and faxing referral requests. But basically, when you get face-to-face with the MD, if you go in there and blast them about subluxation and chiropractic can help with ear infections and the immune system and fertility and, all these things, the MD shuts down because that's not their language, right? So their do would be to speak their language, stick with a symptom, and explain how chiropractic can help with that symptom, and show research as well.
That's awesome. I love that. That's definitely a practical take-home tip that I hope that you all heard there, docs. So, you're really engaged. You're really inspired, Nicole. You're making some huge, making a huge difference in our profession and in your own community. What keeps you inspired?
The whole reason I got into this profession, I was pursuing pharmacy many moons ago because that's all I ever knew were drugs and Western medicine growing up. And I had a really good friend at the age of 20 have an allergic reaction to an asthma inhaler after playing basketball. He was having trouble breathing, and he used that inhaler and he passed away. He had an allergic reaction. And so that event just changed my direction, and it made me think about all the people that are on unnecessary medications that we don't even know about, that are having these reactions, that are losing their life, losing loved ones, living a life in misery and pain because we haven't gotten our message out to them. So that's what inspires me, is these people that we need to reach, that time is of the essence. And if we don't get to them, then something could happen, and it's our responsibility. So I'm inspired to help people get healthy all the time.
Mm-hmm. I think that's something that we should all try to remember, when we have those moments as docs. If you have a rough day or something, someone's not understanding the message you're trying to give them, is what got you into chiropractic in the first place? Because whenever I go back and I think about the transformation I saw in my own body and what I see with my children, it grounds me every single time and gets me, lit back up to share the message.
Awesome.
You were a life grad, so I'm guessing there was tons of inspiration at the school there. But what have been some of your greatest influences as a doc?
The school that I went to, amazing. I've had some really good chiropractors there, teachers, also chiropractors in the community. I worked for chiropractors all through school, really engaged in the program. I became the president of the Student Alumni Association. I don't think there was any one thing, to be honest with you. It was just the experience altogether. Life University was amazing. I sent all my students there that, want to become a chiropractor. It was such a good experience for me, and it inspired me, continues to inspire me. And I'm actually, like I said, I'm going tomorrow to speak to the students, and I'm so excited. Mm-hmm. So I would have to say there wasn't one thing. It was just the whole experience altogether.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've done some really amazing things, in 17 years. I'm sure things that you're proud of, things that, many people are grateful for you and for your role in their life. What would be one thing before we sign off here today? How do you define success for yourself? A lot of docs base it on maybe who they are as a parent, how much money they make, their volume in their office. Like, how do you get really clear on what does it mean to be successful for Dr. Nicole Lindsay?
That's changed, over the years. I would say if you asked me that 10 years ago, it would be totally different now. And that's probably normal, right, to change that. But now I would say when I have more free time and I'm surrounded by the people I love, friends, family, my child, and I feel really good about what I've accomplished that week or that quarter, that time, that whatever period of time that is in my life. And I feel rested. I feel healthy. I feel happy. I feel joy. To me, that's success, is all of that packaged up, is the freedom and just feeling good about where I'm at. That's success.
Mm-hmm. I'd have to agree with you that I think the definition has certainly evolved with my own time. And I'm not sure if it's aging and wisdom that comes along with it, or, just different life experiences that give us those wake-up calls and those experiences that make us think, what's really important to me? But it's something that I'm really passionate on other docs really getting clear on, is like, what does a successful life mean to you? Because when you can really get crystal clear on what it means for you, then you can go about building what it is, right? And just like you built a lifestyle, a business life that revolves around you getting time to play outside every day, which has to be so soul-fulfilling and keep you creatively engaged and allow you to even give more to your patients because you're taking those times out.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe, like I said, 10 years ago, success to me was paying off my debt. I wanted to pay my house off and have so much money in the bank so that I could say that I was 100% debt free. And I accomplished that. And so now I'm like, okay, what now? Now what else is going to make me happy? What else is going to make me feel successful, fulfilled? And that's, where it's come to for me. It's like I go to work, I do what I do, not because I have to, because I don't have to earn the money. I do it because I want to, and it makes me feel good, and I'm helping, and I'm doing a good service to this world. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm.
I just thought of one more question that I want to bring up before I would let you go. But your partner works, has a separate career, or do you guys work together? And you mentioned earlier that you were the breadwinner at the time, maybe when you went off pregnancy. But how do you negotiate that in your relationship right now? Because many women, are the primary breadwinners in their families when they have a practice, and that can present a unique situation in their personal relationship with their partner.
Yeah. Yeah, and it has. I mean, we've evolved, and this has changed over time. And he is a physical therapist, and he came into my practice to work with me about 5 years ago. And it wasn't until then that we really started ironing things out, because it was almost like we were in competition. And it was like he was working 60, 70 hours a week trying to keep up with what I was earning. And it wasn't happening. And finally, when we came to the realization that, look, I make more money and I don't have to work as hard as him, put as many hours in to do that, it just makes sense for him to support me more. And so what we did is I started doing the numbers, and I figured out with the PT, if you work so many hours a week in the office, you can earn what you were making. And that means you'll have X amount of hours to help me at home with our daughter, with cooking, with just nurturing our household at home. It just makes more sense. And that's what we did. So we became more of a partner in that. You take care of this, I'll take care of working, more, because I make more money. It just makes sense, and that's how we made it work.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like any relationship, it comes down to being open and honest and communicating and evolving as needs change for each partner.
Exactly. Yeah. And also I think for men, it's hard for them to give up that position, knowing that their woman is the breadwinner. But once I let him know, look, it's okay. I don't care. I don't think you're any less sexy or any less of a man. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think it's sexy when you're in the kitchen cooking for me.
Yeah, it's all relative. And it's, that's why I've had such fun with this show. I mean, I've talked to so many women who they're the doc in their office, and their partner is actually their office manager or runs things behind the scenes in a way that they completely appreciate. I've had people on the show who, they're the women and they support the husband is the doc. I've got men and women that work together. I mean, every situation is unique, and it's just like creating a lifestyle that you want in your business. It's creating a lifestyle that you want with your partner. And I think certainly anything is possible.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the key, is just we're partners in this, figure it out.
That's probably the biggest take home that I would hope that all of you listeners would get here, amongst all the other amazing things that Nicole has shared, is, find what works for you and get clear on what you want your life to look like, because it's completely possible for you to build a business and a practice that fulfills you as a human being, not just as a doc. So thanks so much, Nicole, for your time today. Obviously, there's going to be lots of links in our show notes here so that you can find out more about Nicole's groups that she runs and the programs and how you can help connect with more docs in your community to help more people. Thanks again for your time, Nicole.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I think what you're doing is awesome, and you are a rock star, too. I really appreciate you.
Thanks for being here today. If you like this show, please share it with another chiropractor and connect them with this message. We are always better off together than we are alone. If you haven't yet subscribed, head on over to Apple Podcasts or iTunes, and don't forget to rate and review the show while you're there. Be sure to connect with me on Instagram and Facebook, and find out more about today's guests and all things Rockstar Doctor Life by clicking in those show notes. See you next time.